NASCAR just dropped the most controversial rule change of the season, and it's all because fans are furious about what's been happening at superspeedways. The April 26th Cup Series race at Talladega Superspeedway will look completely different from what we've seen all year. And if you're wondering why your favorite drivers have been cruising around instead of going flat out at these massive tracks, this urgent sporting-related adjustment is going to fix that problem once and for all. Here's what's really going on. NASCAR has officially announced they're shortening the final two stages of the upcoming Talladega race. The first stage will stay close to 100 laps, but stages 2 and 3 are getting chopped down to lengths that will force drivers to run completely flat out without needing a single pit stop. No more fuel saving, no more strategic cruising, just pure, wide-open racing at 200 miles per hour. And this matters to you as a fan because fuel-saving strategy has been absolutely killing the excitement at superspeedway races this season. You've probably noticed drivers hanging back, not pushing hard, basically turning what should be the most exciting races of the year into fuel mileage competitions. NASCAR heard the complaints loud and clear, and they're doing something about it right now. I've been covering NASCAR for over a decade, and I've never seen the sanctioning body make such a dramatic mid-season adjustment specifically to address fan complaints about racing quality. When NASCAR moves this fast to change something, the situation was getting serious behind the scenes. So here's how this new Talladega format is going to work, why it's such a big deal, what it means for your favorite drivers, and whether this could become the new normal for all superspeedway races going forward. The core problem NASCAR is trying to solve comes down to one thing. Fuel mileage strategy has taken over superspeedway racing. At tracks like Talladega and Daytona, the massive 2.5-mile ovals where cars reach their highest speeds, teams have figured out that the best way to win isn't necessarily to race hard for the entire stage. Instead, they've been playing a completely different game. Here's how the fuel-saving game works. A Cup Series car running flat out at Talladega burns through fuel incredibly quickly. The high speeds, the constant drafting, the engine working at maximum output, it all adds up to fuel consumption that can force an unscheduled pit stop if drivers aren't careful. So what teams started doing was having their drivers intentionally slow down during the middle portions of long stages, sometimes dropping 10 or 15 miles per hour below what the car could actually run. The math behind this strategy is pretty simple. If a stage is long enough that running flat out would require a pit stop for fuel, but running at 90% effort doesn't require a stop, then the strategic move is to save fuel and stay out on track while other cars have to pit. When those fast cars pit for fuel, the fuel-saving cars inherit better track position and often end up with better stage finishes or race results despite being slower on raw pace. But here's where it gets frustrating for fans watching at home or in the grandstands. Superspeedway races are supposed to be NASCAR's most exciting events. These are the races where speeds hit 200 miles per hour, where 30 or 40 cars can run nose to tail in massive pack racing, where drafting partnerships in three-wide racing for hundreds of laps creates some of the most spectacular moments in all of motorsports. When drivers are fuel-saving, you don't get that spectacle. Instead, you get cars spread out around the track, drivers not pushing their teammates in the draft, and long periods where it looks like everyone is just cruising around, waiting for something to happen. The massive pack racing that defines great superspeedway competition gets replaced by strategic positioning that prioritizes fuel conservation over actual racing. Fan complaints about this issue have been building all season long. Social media has been flooded with frustration about drivers not racing hard at the superspeedways. Television ratings for these events haven't been meeting expectations. And perhaps most importantly, drivers themselves have been vocal about not enjoying this style of racing either. This official sporting-related adjustment for Talladega represents NASCAR's direct response to this growing problem. By shortening the final two stages of the race, NASCAR is essentially removing the fuel mileage element from the equation. If stages 2 and 3 are short enough that every car can run flat out from green flag to checkered flag without needing fuel, then there's no strategic advantage to saving fuel anymore. This creates a completely different racing dynamic. Drivers will have no choice but to push their cars to the absolute limit throughout these shortened stages. The pack racing that fans love will return because there's no reason to hold back. Three-wide battles for position will happen naturally because fuel conservation won't be a factor in decision-making. The psychological impact on drivers will be huge as well. When you remove the fuel-saving strategy from the equation, drivers can focus entirely on racing. They can work with their teammates to push each other through the field. They can take risks on aggressive moves without worrying about burning extra fuel. The entire mindset shifts from strategic conservation to pure competition. Now let's talk about how this new format will actually work on race day. The first stage will remain close to its traditional length of around 100 laps. This opening stage will still have some fuel strategy elements because of its length, but it sets up the field for what happens next. Stages 2 and 3 are where the magic happens. These stages will be shortened to lengths that ensure every single car can run flat out without a fuel stop. The exact lap counts haven't been finalized, but industry insiders are suggesting we're looking at stages in the 40 to 60 lap range for both the second and third segments. What this means practically is that when the green flag drops for stage 2, every driver knows they can mash the throttle and keep it there until the stage ends. There's no strategic fuel saving. There's no reason to hold back. It becomes a pure sprint race within the longer event. The pit strategy completely changes as well. Teams will pit between stages for fuel and fresh tires, but during the actual racing segments, pit stops become irrelevant for fuel purposes. This eliminates the scenarios where fast cars get trapped a lap down because they had to pit for fuel while slower cars stayed out. Driver behavior will shift dramatically too. Without fuel concerns, drivers can engage in the aggressive pack racing that makes superspeedway events special. They can work together in drafting partnerships without worrying about burning extra fuel. They can make bold three-wide moves without calculating fuel burn rates. The team communication will be completely different as well. Instead of spotters constantly updating drivers about fuel consumption and telling them to save fuel, the radio chatter will focus entirely on track position, drafting opportunities, and racing strategy. Crew chiefs can focus on car setup and racing tactics rather than fuel mileage calculations. For fans watching on television and in the grandstands, this format promises to deliver the non-stop action superspeedway racing is supposed to provide. The final two stages become essentially sprint races, where the outcome depends purely on racing skill, drafting strategy, and luck, rather than who managed their fuel consumption most effectively. This rule change could have massive implications for the playoff picture. Talladega has historically been a wildcard race, and with this new format emphasizing pure racing over strategy, we could see unpredictable results that dramatically shake up the championship battle. The long-term implications extend far beyond just one race. NASCAR is running a test case to see if this produces the racing fans want. If the reaction is overwhelmingly positive, this could become the new standard for all superspeedway events, including Daytona. Picture all 4 superspeedway races guaranteeing flat-out racing from start to finish.